So, Wendy, can you tell us a bit about just your early life, where you come from, where you were brought up and things?
Yes, well, I was born in Roehampton, southwest London, and lived my childhood there. I'm the oldest of three girls.
So you're a local girl.
I'm local, yeah, I'm local. I've always lived in this sort of area, yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And what how did you get interested in textiles? Because you've always been interested in textiles and you're still producing beautiful printed silks.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I think my whole life I've been interested in textiles. From the age of about probably 8, I was making little felt animals, little tiny dolls' clothes for my dolls. I've always made stuff, and my mother was very good. She used to make all our clothes and knit and make our clothes, and she actually taught me how to use a sewing machine a bit later. But she was probably instrumental in I just loved making things.
Yes. And did you have any formal training?
No, absolutely none. I was self-taught. At school, we did needlework at school, but by that time I was already making dolls' clothes, and I
Yes,
was
you
probably
knew
actually designing dolls' clothes. You know, I don't think I was making my own clothes, but at school, yeah, we were taught to make an apron, a skirt, and I was always really, really quick. I think I finished my apron and skirt in about 2 weeks, and I was sort of sitting there like this,
waiting for the
while
others.
everybody else was struggling. And so the teacher had to find something else for me to do, so she sort of gave me a dress to make. So I was just always, I seemed to have a sort of, basically that was, just basically I was good at it. Really. I had an aptitude.
What did you do after you left school?
Well, I was not that very academic, and I wasn't that sort of keen on school really. I knew I wanted to do something to do with creativity really. I wasn't that interested in art college at the time, but just by chance found this course. London College of Fashion had opened a new college at Oxford Circus, John Prince's Street, and there was a new course, and it was millinery, City and Guilds. And I don't know why, but I just thought, oh yeah, that sounds interesting. It's something creative. I didn't really want to do kind of dressmaking because I felt I knew it by that time, even at sort of 15. So I enrolled on this course, and it was absolutely brilliant. It was the best thing I'd ever done. It was in the mid-60s. We were like at the height of fashion there. There were hairdressers, tailors, everyone was sort of very creative. You couldn't actually buy anything in the shop centre. Everyone made their own clothes. And so I started sort of going to jumble sales and picking up fabrics, bits of old curtains and stuff, and making my own clothes, something unusual to stand out, basically.
And you were interested, you told me, in vintage clothes as well, and altered them.
Always,
yeah.
Always, yeah. But the millinery actually taught me, it was a fantastic course. It just taught me about colour and design. It kind of opened my eyes to the world outside the world of GCE art,
Yes.
At school.
That's great.
And it was incredible. We learned how to design hats and make hats and just learn about fabrics and how to manipulate fabrics. So actually looking back, that really helped me, that course, even though I didn't carry on in millinery. I did
Because it was the techniques.
It was, and then I worked in millinery workrooms, and for couture millinery I worked for Frederick Fox, and I worked for quite a few years, and then I kind of got a bit disillusioned with it really, because all the time I was making clothes, out of old fabrics. That was sort of my interest really all along.
Yes.
So
when and how did you first meet Freddie? Was it at around this time or a bit later?
Well, it would have been around that time, and my then boyfriend, Pete, who actually became my husband, happened to be at Hampton School with Brian May and Tim Staffel. They were in the same class. And I mean, Pete is just not a musician at all, but he was friendly with them. And at that time, Brian and Tim were in a band called 1984. It was a school band. And then Pete sort of hung around with them, and then they became Smile. They got in Roger Taylor, and then they formed the band Smile, and Pete roadied for them. And the key thing was that Freddie at that time was at Ealing Art College with Tim Staffel, so they were very good friends. Freddie was in, I think, 3 bands then, different other bands. There was Wreckage, Salmi Sea, and Ibis. And I mean, they all merged into one, those three bands. I can't tell you the kind of which was first or second or third or whatever. So he just used to hang around with Smile, and he was always there. Got really friendly with the band, and you know, Freddie was basically there, really. I think he kind of had this feeling that, yes, this band is good. I'm kind of waiting here in the wings, maybe to get in there. So, I mean, he was a friend, and we used to go hang around at parties, and Brian at that time, I think, was in Barnes. Everyone used to kind of congregate there. Fred used to sort of hang around there and live there for a bit. You know, it was just one sort of happy, a lot of friends, you know, and some of the girls were at college in Kensington, and so it kind of was a forerunner of the Kensington thing in a way.
Was he always interested in fashion and clothes?
Absolutely. He was. It's very interesting because he was the only person who always used to comment on my clothes. He'd say, "Oh, I like that, Wendy. Did you make it?" And I sort of got into Bieber. Couldn't afford to buy even Bieber clothes then. So I got this kind of old velvet curtain. I remember I made this sort of waistcoat that was really cutaway, as a Bieber long waistcoats were, with a skirt. And he was always commenting on my clothes. So he was obviously quite impressed with what I was doing. And also at college, his course was graphics and fashion. So his end of year, whether it was an end of year, he definitely designed clothes as part of his course. But I think at the same time as that, he was in bands. So he was basically doing all this other stuff that he was interested in. So that was sort of, you know, Freddie was, he had kind of showed interest in what I was doing. And then he and Roger set up a stall in Kensington Market, which would have been around, I would say, 1970 probably, because the market was like the hub. It was a hub of creativity. There was vintage clothing, jewellery, designers set up little you know, they started there, you know, a lot of people started there. So Freddie and Roger had this stall selling like vintage clothing and a bit of graphics. And then he asked me to make some clothes for the stall. So that's sort of how it started.
That's how it all started.
And he liked the idea that I was using these vintage stuff. So I made little kind of patchwork jackets out of vintage clothing, bits and pieces, and little blouses and tops and things like that for the stall. And they all sold, everything sold, which was great. And then I think the stall probably lasted till about 71. And they closed it. And then Freddie got a job with Alan Mayer Bootmaker, who was actually in the market. So he was there. He sort of ran the stall, and Alan Mayer used to make these amazing boots with stacked heels and the gorgeous colours, wooden stacked heels, which was like, at the time it was fashionable because, you know, men were wearing flared velvet loons and flares and the stacked heeled shoes. So Freddie worked there, and he literally he used to strut around the market like looking like a star. It's like, oh, hello, my dears, you know, good morning.
And was he quite a confident person?
He was pretty confident, although he was in some ways quite shy in other ways, really. It was quite interesting because after the store closed down, he actually got me 2 jobs in the market, which is when he was working for Alan Mayer. So there was a New Zealand girl, so I started making clothes for her, as I'd been doing, you know, with vintage fabrics. And this was all through Freddie. And then when she closed and went back to New Zealand, he got me another job with a store called Nostalgia. A girl called Anne Harding ran it. And she used to give me the fabrics and just said, oh, just make something up with them, which is just what I loved. So I just did it, you know. And
what was the first thing you made for Freddie?
That was, well, apart from the market, which wasn't really his. I remember vividly, we were at Brian's. We was kind of sitting on this big sofa, everybody was hanging out, and Freddie sort of came up to me and said, Wendy, I've got this ballet top, a sort of black stretch ballet top, which is sort of a wraparound jersey.
Yes.
And he said, can you copy this in black velvet? And he actually produced the velvet. So he got this stretch velvet. He sort of knew that I was going to do it. And he said, oh, well, here's this. You can copy this. I said, oh, yeah, of course, fine. So I made this top. And at that time, it would have been Queen, because it would have been when Queen first started, because Then he was wearing like black or white satin trousers. So it was basically black and white was the thing.
Yes, yes.
When he actually joined Queen. So anyway, I made this black top, and this is for stage, for stage wear. I think it would have been, well, it was, I don't know, 73 or 74, that kind of time. So yeah, so I did that, and then.
So his style was quite developed at that point, and for the stage at least.
Yes, he always had a vision of what he wanted to be like. He wanted to be a kind of a character. He probably didn't like the person he was, and he wanted to be someone else always.
Is that why he changed his name, do you think?
Yeah, because he had this thing about fleet of foot, the winged god of Mercury. Fleet of foot, and so I think Mercury was his sort of thing.
I think it was his star sign as well.
He's born in September, 1946.
Might have been. I read that somewhere.
Maybe, yeah.
I don't know.
Anyway, Mercury, the sort of flash of lightning, just sort of, that was his sort of
what he wanted to
image,
be.
really. Yes. So at that time, he would have changed his name to Freddie Mercury then, I'm sure. And then a bit later on, in fact, I'd had my little boy then, and it was actually September 1975. He just approached me and said, I've got this idea for the tour. I want to look like this winged god of Mercury, and I'm inspired by, this album is inspired by painting by Richard Dadd called Fairy Fella's Masterstroke. And it was sort of the good and evil. So it was like all these white sort of fairies at the top, and they were all dressed in black at the bottom. So it was good at the top, evil at the bottom. He showed me a photo and said, well, this is what, this is my kind of inspiration for the album. And this is what I want to be. And he actually did a little sketch, the kind of idea he wanted with a fleet of foot thing. So and also he produced the fabrics. He said, look, this is the fabric. I've already bought the fabric. It's from Borovick's in Soho, and I'd like it in this fabric, which was very early lycra. So we sort of collaborated, put our heads together and collaborated. And I said, well, I had an idea of using quilting and making these sort of winged heels. And this is actually a replica pattern of that I made in about 1975, where I've got lines of quilting. It shows where the lines of quilting were. So I quilted this piece, and then I attached it onto the front of the legs of the costume.
Ah, yes.
So they stood out as, this is the replica suit that I made in 2011 in a not very nice fabric, but that gives you the idea. So Freddie loved the idea.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, so he loved that idea. He said, oh, that sounds great. And I said, well, I think it needs something to balance it, because he wanted this really skin-tight suit, and he wanted it stretchy because he was moving around. So I thought, well, somehow it needs balancing out. So I had the idea of a waistcoat, also like a wings.
And so quilted as well.
Quilted. So that's the pattern of the back. Whoops. And it's so tiny. That's the pattern of the back.
You said to me earlier that he kind of bulked up and put on weight a bit later when he was wearing the
when he wore the
vests and
singlet, I
things.
think, yes.
Yeah, but at this time he was quite slim.
He was really skinny, yeah. I should just find and that's the front. So that's the pattern of the front of the waistcoat.
wow.
Look how
Yeah,
tiny that is.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
So he just said, oh yeah, fine, Wendy, just go ahead, just do something. He kind of obviously had faith in me to do it.
Yeah.
So I made this, and I remember we had fittings, because at that time he was in flat in Holland Road living with Mary. So we used to go to the fittings. Freddie and Mary used to sort of come out in the sort of kimonos. Swan around in kimonos, and so anyway, Freddie went and tried the suits when it came out, and it was like, I think this just needs a little bit tighter. Yes, could we just do a fraction tighter? So, okay. So I took these in. Yeah, we had about 4 fittings, and each time it was, maybe a little bit tighter. So anyway, I made 3 of the white suits, but I think I only made 1 waistcoat at the time and 1 lot of the winged heels, because he said, oh, I can swap these onto the other suits. So I put Velcro on the front, so sort of Velcroed on the front of the leg, so he could take them off if he wanted. So it was quite fun. I think in the end I had to actually stitch them because they were flapping a bit.
Keep there. And did he wear that suit?
Oh yes, yeah, he wore that suit for the first part of the show.
Right.
But the other thing was that he also wanted black suits because of the evil. So this was the good.
Yes.
And the good queen. So he wanted 2 black suits, and again he produced a fabric which the black fabric was exactly the same as the white.
So stretchy.
Yeah. So he wanted, more specific, he wanted a plain black one that was much more cutaway to the waist. It had a zip as well, but more cutaway and plain. So it kind of came off the shoulder. And the legs were straighter. They weren't as flared as, the white one. And then he wanted a spine suit to kind of look evil, like this spined creature. So I came up with the idea again with quilting, which is a kind of fascinating thing. So it had a spine down the back and a spine down each arm. And it was really good because the spine stood out. I think there is a photograph of him wearing in a book.
Yes, we've got some pictures.
So I made those 2 suits for the tour. And Freddie, he would do he wanted jewels put on the one of the suits. So he sewed all the jewels on.
Oh, did he?
So this black suit, it had jewels in between each spine, on the sleeve and down the back, and then I think some on the front.
Yes.
And he just used to sit and
So
hand
they'd
sew
catch the light on stage.
hand sew these sequins and jewels on. So it looked absolutely amazing. The spine suit was pretty good. So they were for that tour, and I remember seeing that show at Hammersmith Odeon, and I knew that I'd stitched the seams probably about 4 times, but I was still absolutely terrified he was going to split them. So I remember sitting and watching, and I was really nervous, but they didn't split. They were absolutely great.
So
and
he
the show
was right.
Amazing, yeah. And then after that show, after the end of Christmas, they were going on to the States, so the tour was carrying on, and he had the suits dry cleaned, and one of them shrank. So he asked me if I could make another white one. So he gave me this suit, which had shrunk. So I unpicked it, and that is a little sleeve.
So that's a bit of the original suit.
The original suit was absolutely beautiful fabric, which you can't get anymore. So I somehow knew that I had to kind of keep these pieces. So I just put everything away, and I've got more pieces of this. So I unpicked it, made him another one. I made another waistcoat, and he said, "Oh, well, just do what you want." I said, "I think I'm going to do some different stitching on the second waistcoat." He said, "Oh, fine." He was fine with it. And I made another set of the winged heels for that. So they were worn on that tour, which was probably I can't remember the name of the tour now, but it was in 75, 76, Night at the Opera, I think it was.
Oh, yes, a Night at the Opera.
And then the surprise, because I didn't know this was going to happen, was that the suit was on the Bohemian Rhapsody video, which was a surprise, because I didn't really know until it actually came out. And it was, oh, wow, this is kind of quite amazing, because that video shows the suit off really well when he's sitting at the piano playing. And
What do you think drove him? Was it fame? Was it
Freddie always
curiosity? Was it?
Freddie always knew he was going to be a star. He used to tell everyone, he said, "Oh, I'm going to be a star, my dear." I mean, this is when they weren't famous at all, but he just knew. He had this thing. He looked and acted like a star even before he was. He used to pick up vintage sort of women's clothing from Kensington Market, little sort of black and gold jackets and things, and long sort of dress scarves, and he used to swan around, actually looking like a star. And he just used to tell everybody he was. And we used to go, "Oh, really, Freddie? Really?" We weren't really convinced, but he always sort of knew. He had this sort of vision, and I think because he kind of immersed himself into characters all the time, and that was what he did on stage.
Right.
And it kind of made up for him, whatever his shortcomings were. This is what he was. On stage, he was a character, a different persona. And that's where he shone.
And he did become a star. So
yes,
he did. Did you keep in contact with him later, or was it really mainly the early days?
It was mainly the early days. It was before John Reed, before the band signed with John Reed. It was really when they were at Trident, we were very friendly with them. And also the fan club was run by Pat and Sue Johnson. Then we were a nice little kind of clique. And then when John Reed took them over, and they sort of moved on, so I really didn't have that much contact with them then.
But you were quite busy with other things then.
Yes.
Yes, at
Yes,
that time.
exactly. I mean, I had my children,
Yes.
and it was so difficult.
Yes,
But
yes.
so I had not really much contact, and in fact, I didn't really see Freddie until I think the last time I saw him was 1980. It was on the Magic Tour. I think it was 1986. We went to Main Road, Manchester. So it was a football stadium, an outdoor stadium. And Pete, at that time, my husband, he was working on some of the staging there. So we went up, and by that time, Freddie changed. This was the thing. He started travelling separately from the band then. So he travelled separately, and he had a separate dressing room. And I don't know when that started. I think it was a gradual thing. When I saw him, in fact, what happened was, so we saw Brian, and so I said, "Oh, Brian, I'd love to see Freddie. I haven't seen him for so long." He said, "Okay, Wendy, I'll take you." So he took me all backstage to Freddie's dressing room, which was quite a big dressing room. He was there on his own, but then Mary was there, which is interesting because he and Mary had
We're not
together, but Mary was always there. She was always with him, really. And so I went and saw Freddie, and we chatted for about 20 minutes, and it was absolutely lovely. He was really happy to see me. And he wanted to talk about the tour he was doing. He's excited about the tour because there was all these sort of gantries and levels, and steps that he was, the actual steps was amazing. And he was talking about the costumes.
Yes.
And he wanted to talk about what was happening then.
Not about the past.
I did sort of touch on the old days, but he didn't really want to go there.
No, right.
Because that was Freddie. He just was always wanted to move on. And we chatted for about 20 minutes about all sorts of things. And then he sort of had enough. And I had a sort of feeling then after that, I don't know, I thought afterwards, just something I'm not sure about, something a bit different about Freddie. I wasn't quite sure what to put my finger on. And then I think perhaps then he did know he was ill. Maybe he did. I mean, we didn't. But we did know before, probably most people knew.
Yeah.
But it was just so lovely. That was the last time I saw him, the last time I chatted, and it was just lovely to have done that.
So he was a nice person.
He was the kindest, really. He was absolutely lovely. He took me under his wing, really. I really felt he would kind of nurtured me, and he appreciated sort of a talent that I had.
Yes.
But he also knew he could use me,
Yes,
for something that he wanted.
It was,
Yeah. And I just feel like we had a special relationship. We were on the same wavelength. We kind of liked the same things. I appreciated everything he had in his flat, and his kimonos and the Japanese things. And he just loved beautiful things. And we had a kind of rapport, really. We had a very similar sort of interest in a way. And so I do sort of treasure that friendship.
Well, that's,
it was special. It was definitely special.
Yes. Well, there are lots of nice connections that you've made there with the quilting and things, and with our exhibition here. What would you say to especially younger people who come to this exhibition who may not have lived through the AIDS crisis and don't really know very much about that? What do you think? If you could have a conversation with Freddie, what do you think he'd like to tell people?
I did think about a conversation I would have with Freddie if I saw him now. I would say, Freddie, you always said you were going to be a star, and you did, but in fact, you've become an icon.
Yes.
You are loved. You are so loved. And he would probably say, "Oh, my dear, yeah, I told you so. Yeah, I knew I would be," because that was how he talked. And then I would also say to him, "Look, Freddie, thank you so much for keeping everything and beautifully preserved, packed up, dry cleaned, because we didn't know what had happened to those suits. And if you'd have seen this exhibition at Sotheby's of your..."
Do you want to tell us about the Sotheby's thing?
Yes. I knew that Mary was going to auction off the contents of Garden Lodge in Kensington, which was where she lived, and Freddie and her bought that house, probably in the 80s, I think. Mary lived there. and she decided that she was going to probably sell it and auction everything off. And then I was just approached out of the blue from two girls who worked with Sotheby's. I got this email saying, "Oh, you're Wendy de Smet. You made Freddie Mercury's costumes. We'd like to talk to you. We're working, but we need you to sign a disclosure first that you're not going to say anything."
You're allowed to say now.
Yes. So I said, yes, I am, it's me. And the reason they found me was because my label was in Freddie's clothing, Wendy de Smet.
Yes.
So I always had my label. So I couldn't believe it. I said, I can't believe this. Yeah, no one knew what had happened to these costumes. I had to make a replica in 2011 because we assumed that they didn't exist. And then she started to send me some photos. Is this yours? I went, yes, yes, this is mine, this is mine. I said, oh my God. I said, I think I need to come and see these. So I met the girls at the warehouse, Sotheby's warehouse in Greenford. This was 2023, sort of in the spring. I walked in and there was a rack, and all my 6 items were hanging there. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. It was quite emotional.
Kept them.
He kept absolutely everything, every single piece of stage clothing, probably every single piece he wore every day, which were all in this exhibition. And everything, my costumes, they all had dry cleaning labels in them from 1976.
Really?
So they'd been packed up and found in trunks in Garden Lodge. And I don't think Mary had ever, looked at all this stuff. It was there, but she hadn't really looked.
Might have been quite painful for her.
I think so, yeah. I think so. So I looked at it, and then, so I looked at these, I was like, oh my God, I hadn't seen these since 1975, 76. So it was kind of like a revelation. So I started talking about how I made them, my collaboration with Freddie, how I actually sewed this, and now I put Velcro on, and I realised he'd taken some of the Velcro off, and he'd stitched the wings on himself because perhaps the Velcro didn't work. And then he'd put elastic on some of them legs, and then he'd taken actually some of the sequins off the plain black suit after he'd finished wearing it because the threads were there, and they discovered he'd put the sequins onto a leotard. This is what Carrie said. They'd moved them, yes, for his next stage. So they were all there, the items, well worn, actually.
Yes. And what happened to them at the auction?
Right. Well, Sotheby's set up an absolutely incredible exhibition which was on for a whole month in August before the auction, which was September, around Freddie's birthday. And it was incredible. It was a free exhibition. You had to queue up. The queues were absolutely vast. I collaborated with the girls that were involved with the clothing on cataloguing the items, each item, my input in how I had made them, all the little detail, which has all gone into the catalogue, and it really helped. And basically what they had, it was furniture, paintings, everything, glass, everything he collected.
From the house?
Everything from the house. It was absolutely vast. And on the top floor, they had, they'd put a large room with all his kimonos and costumes. There was a wardrobe room with everything hanging up. So on particular display was one of these white costumes, which without a waistcoat, wrap top, ballet top, and then the pièce de résistance was Freddie's grand piano, a great big photo of Freddie wearing my white suit, and my white suit and the black spine suit on display, and Alan Mayer's boots that he wore with each suit, a black pair and a white
it's
pair.
Wonderful that it had all been kept.
It was unbelievable, absolutely amazing. And so I was sort of had various viewings that I took various people round, and people from Sotheby's took us round. I was able to talk to certain special guests about, the costumes, how I made them, my collaboration with Freddie. It was absolutely amazing. And they pulled out all the stops of this exhibition. Yes, it was stunning. Yes. And then
where are the costumes now?
Well, they've all been auctioned. It was quite sad because we were hoping the V&A would buy some of the costumes, which would have been absolutely amazing. So
they
the
might have put them on
nation received them.
display.
But they went for an absolute fortune.
Did they?
I mean, my white one went for something like 700,000 or
700,
something.
yeah.
And a Brazilian collector certainly bought the white and the black spine suit. Plus, he bought the crown and cloak. He bought some iconic items: Freddie's fur jacket, Live Aid outfit. He bought a silvery cat suit. Anything that was iconic that was related to either a tour, an album, you know. And he's supposed to be having an exhibition, but
he's still got them, this Brazilian collector.
Yeah. I mean, other people bought them. They all went to private collectors, sadly.
No, that's a shame, isn't it?
I mean, I don't know. Well, I do know who bought some of them. Americans. I have an American collector who bought the wrap top, and he's written to me. He's from Florida and said, "Oh, if you come over, you know, I'd love to meet you." So I've had all that. Really lovely.
Yes. So you've got these pieces of fabric and the patterns and lots and lots of photographs.
I've got these kind of special things, yes. And I've got the Sotheby's catalogue also, which has got a write-up. I had to do a write-up for them about Freddie. So that really was a kind of culmination of, it was kind of amazing, and it was just amazing that it happened. You know, it's sad that they went to private collectors, but in some ways they've gone somewhere that you know where they are.
Somebody loved them and wanted them.
Yeah.
Yes. Wendy, you're still producing wonderful textiles. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing nowadays?
Yes, well, actually, I did go back to college to do a BA in the 90s, a BA and then an MA in printed textiles, textile design, and actually work. I design and make. So these scarves. So I sell. I mean, I used to do trade, sell through trade, but now it's really for private clients. So I design and make all these.
Yes.
So I'm sort of round and back around in a circle to making.
Making.
But, you know, I knew I wanted to produce my own fabrics and not just make things out of fabrics that I'd bought. So that really inspired me to go back. So I continue to do that.
Yes. Thank you very much indeed for sharing your memories with us. It's really, really interesting.
That's a pleasure.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell us before we finish?
Yes, you're asking me about the quilts, about the AIDS.
Yes.
Quilts. I mean, at the time, AIDS was just such a terrifying thing because there was no cure.
No cure.
Absolutely no cure. It was absolutely terrifying. People were terrified about getting it because they knew if they got it, they would die. It was a horrible, slow death. And probably nobody would understand if they hadn't really kind of lived through that. If you were, you know, in the 80s and 90s, that was, you know, we lost so many people. People lost so many friends, and you know, and that's why, you know, this
is so important.
These are so important, and the fact that these exist is incredible. Of course, now there's a cure, so.
Yes, and you can live quite a healthy, long life with HIV, AIDS. But in those days, it was a death sentence.
It was, absolutely. And I have no idea how Freddie thought about it, having it, you know. I don't know, because I never had a conversation with him about that. But it is a tragedy.
Yes.
You know.
How old was he when he died?
I think he was 40.
40-something.
Something, yes.
Yes, young then. Yeah, really, yeah.
He lived life to the full, though. He did live life to the full. You know, that is something you can say for him.
Well, on the quilt here it says "lover of life, singer of songs."
Yes, that's
and he was a lover of life.
Yes, so that is perfect.
Yeah.
And also all the sparkle. It kind of works, really.
Yes. Yeah. We don't know who made this, but it was contributed to the quilt. We may find out one day. They're still researching and doing a lot of work on it.
It would be amazing to find out.
Would.
Yes, yes, it would.
Oh. Thank you very much, Wendy. And it's absolutely fascinating. And we'll keep this for our records. And it really works with the exhibition that we've got at the moment.
Yes. Well, thank you for inviting me to talk about Freddie.
No, not at all.